Hi, one and all. I'm Bill Davis, and on behalf of the entire team, I get to say welcome to Office Hours today, where we answer your tech questions live. Let's get right to those questions. Cindy Drozda of Erie, Colorado, is our reader today. Cindy, what do we have on tap?
Our first one is from the QR code. Michael Montez in Portland, Oregon is asking, I have a few coffee shops in the city and would like to start my own live webcam YouTube channel. What are your recommendations for an easy setup, a better setup, and a best setup? I don't have any equipment currently.
Excuse me, I almost stepped on you there. Alex Lindsay is going to help you out figuring out the perfect solution.
I would like to give you the age-old answer. It depends. So let us know, like, what do you want to stream from those coffee shops? I think it's a great idea, by the way, to stream from coffee shops. But the question is, are you going to stream about coffee? Are you going to stream bands playing, or an artist, on a guitar in the corner? That's very classic coffee shop streaming. I think I'm always surprised that more coffee shops. There's one coffee shop in Petaluma Aquas that is a great coffee shop, and they have bands come in, and I always threaten to go up there and stream, I'm like, this would be great to have the band, stream the bands, and I think it's really good for the bands. They get more exposure. So, that's one option. You could also talk about coffee. The thing to think about is what is that subject matter going to be? Is it going to be, or are you just doing a witness camera, which I don't know if I would necessarily go through the trouble of doing a witness camera, but I might think about, if I was thinking about coffee, I think that doing things about understanding coffee, I don't know if you're a roaster or just a coffee shop, but if you're doing roasting, talking about that, talking about making the perfect cappuccino or the perfect latte and what it takes to, froth the milk and prep the stuff and the things that are important. But you might want to do those as videos, but then what those videos lead you to is having some live streams with people that might be interested in it once you've built a little bit of a following on YouTube. So doing live to a new, I don't know, and I don't know if you have much going on your channel yet, doing live to a new channel is pretty brutal. It's a pretty lonely place to be. If the channel's got less than 100 viewers, you're going to have 3 people watching your live, which sometimes is good because you're just getting used to it. But you think about maybe doing some VODs before that and kind of building up some stuff. And the key is, there's tons of great videos. You'd think that no one would watch more coffee videos, but as a person that watches a lot of coffee videos, I would watch yours if you made another good one, because it's always you're always looking for that last little edge. I just finished making a latte for my wife. She's up early, so anyway, so I would think about technique videos. To do that kind of thing, what you're looking for is you're probably going to shoot outside of your regular hours. It's kind of hard to do a really good job in the regular hours. You're going to think of kind of a stand-up of how someone's talking, how you're going to get the cameras up over it. And also, you're probably nowadays thinking about some kind of, camera with a shorter depth of field. Sony's are pretty popular for this kind of thing. So shooting with something like an FX30 is a pretty good solution as far as shooting some of those pieces. And, you can either have it be a multicam, but most of these things can be done with one camera. And you just have to really think about continuity if you're going to shoot up over and then in. And what you do is you kind of, for these how-tos, you got to shoot at an angle where one angle kind of works. And you don't have to tie it in too tightly. And then you're kind of shooting overview where you might talk over it. And so those are the kind of things that you want to do. But let us know what you're trying to do. But the next step would be to, and I think another place is, again, bands. Bringing, or I wouldn't say bands, but I would say singer-songwriters. That's the very classic. And I don't know, you're probably going to be like, oh, no, we don't do that. So if you don't do that, then don't do that. But if you do that, streaming those things is great. You get a great little mixer in there and it's great for the singer-songwriter. They might promote it to their friends, like, hey, I'm streaming from the, and in that case, you really want to think about a space that you're going to have for them to be on, some little lighting that you might want to have in the ceiling, and that kind of thing. Your smoke machine. No, I'm just kidding. No smoke machine. So
special effects.
Yeah, exact special effect lasers. That would be really good. Anyway, those are some of the things to think about.
Alexander Knight wants to get in on this. Alexander.
Yeah, I think Alex is dead on there. And especially, when it comes to audio as well, if you're just going to be doing things like interviews without knowing your budget, but let's say it's under $1,000, obviously the trend now with audio is a lot of people are buying these clip-on transmitter wireless systems that run on 2.4 gigahertz, like the Rode Wireless Go's of the world, the DJIs. What I would suggest you do if you're going to go down that route is to not follow the trend of holding the transmitter close to your mouth and using it like it's a handheld mic. So if you could please buy a discrete lavalier, because you can plug that into the Rode wireless system with a 3.5 millimeter plug. Get yourself a decent lav, plug it in, and clip it onto the shirt, or find a way to hide it, because that is a much better looking solution.
A ton of chatter on the Mukana chat today as well. Guy Cochran said, I'd use a Zoom Room software at $40 a month with a pan-tilt zoom camera connected via USB. You can also allow others to control the camera, but be aware of privacy concerns that Mickey McAchore gave a +1 to. Ryan Thompson also noted there's a coffee shop in Boston that puts videos of people dancing for free coffee. There's your eyeball attractor right there. Nice little bit of marketing. And Michael's just talking about live webcam type broadcasts. So if it's just a static shot of the coffee shop, I'm sure that, you got that combination of everybody wants to see who's there and are my friends there and can I go hang out and enjoy my coffee time with some people that I know, versus the privacy concern, which a couple of people +1'd on there. So that's the chat in Mukana. If you're not in Mukana, this is a perfect time for you to do that. Head over to Office Hours .global/join, and you can follow the breadcrumbs there and become kind of part of the community that spends time during the show paying attention and chatting with each other, and that's where I was picking those notes up from. So it's a really nice, warm, and welcoming place to go. So always, if you want to get a little more involved, ask Office Hours, officehours.global/join. Let's go to our next question.
Douglas Carmichael is next. What end-of-year audio plug-in deals have you found appealing?
Ooh, Alexander, nice. Start us off.
I didn't have a lot of time to research this, but of course, sometimes, just the most utilitarian plugins are what you need. And I would recommend looking at the Ulian Loudness Meter 2 Pro. They just released a major new version, which has a bunch of new features and stability updates. And it is currently 24% off right now. So it's well under $100. You can see this is in Canadian dollars here. It's only $55. So very affordable, very cool plugin if you need something to measure your loudness in your audio production. And of course, Waves.com, which, Waves always seems like their plugins are perpetually on sale, but this time they mean it with a year-end sale. 2 plugins for $39.99 or 5 for $79.99. I feel like it's a 90s infomercial. Call now. Operators are standing by. So there you go.
But they got me this year. Mickey had worked with me on some of my audio chain for my audiobooks, and there were a couple of plugins there. So I was waiting for Black Friday, and Black Friday showed up. So I sent them some money, and now I have his recommended plugins on some of my chain. Not the daily show, but on the stuff I do for the audiobook. So yeah, there's a lot of plugins out there, and that's one thing you will never run out of options in the audio plugin world. There are probably a billion out there at some point. Next question.
Hasmukh Gajar in Cape Town is asking, to my question yesterday of mirroring my monitor 180 degrees on the y-axis, like Zoom client does, it was suggested I get MDHX. I may have said x-axis, but it's y-axis. What is MDHX? Can I get more info? Is it a decimator?
Yeah, Alexander Knight will help you. Alexander?
Yes, you are dead right, Hasmukh. It is the Decimator brand, and it is one of their products. The Decimators are very useful utilities for not just being able to say convert one type of connection like SDI to HDMI or vice versa, but also they will do things like rescale and convert frame rates. And obviously, in this case, it was suggested because you can flip the image. So that is the tool that we're talking about, and it looks like this.
There you go. And there are multiple models in there, so make sure you order the correct one. There's not just one MD. Those red boxes, there's probably a dozen different ones to do specific different things. But in this case, you've got the designator, the MDHX, which will do the flipping, among other things. Next question.
Another one from the QR code from Chuck Hodges in Tuolumne, California. We can now buy disguised render engines for $50 US each or VX for $3,500. Should we bother, and what could we do with these things?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, for those watching, Disguise, I think what he's talking about here is Disguise. This is manages your LED walls, among many other things. So these are this is one of the systems that's used for this, one of the more popular ones. It again depends on what you're doing. Usually with Disguise, if you're trying to figure out prices, I don't know if you're in the right business. like Disguise is a very expensive solution to do most of these things, and so usually you need it. If you need it, you need it. And so I don't know if I've ever talked to anyone about price around Disguise, but it's good to have. I don't know exactly, to be honest with you, what the rendering engines are there. We've definitely worked with Disguise in the past, but I haven't worried about. It's mostly I have a Disguise operator and Disguise system that's in place, but I don't know all the little bits and pieces of what that would do. So I can't answer your question specifically, but I would say you probably need to give us more details of what kind of screen are you running, or is that what you're running? So if you're doing those types of things, let us know exactly what you're trying to do with it, and maybe we can figure it out.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. How do you take the output of two conductor 3.5 millimeter, 1/8 inch, 8 ohm pinouts to my computer for a Zoom meeting, either direct to my Atem Mini Pro or to my Mac M1 Mini? Should I use attenuators and a Y cable, or a mixer or interface?
Yeah, this does get complicated to do Y connectors and things like that. Alexander Knight's going to help you out. Alexander?
Yeah, Paul, I'm curious if is it just that you're trying to get audio out of a Zoom meeting? Because first of all, let's talk about the conductor and the cable you're talking about. So we're talking about it using a 3.5 millimeter headphone output, which is an unbalanced stereo output. And
it looks like he said two conductors. So what my question is that just a tip sleeve?
Yeah,
there
so that would
appear to be any ring.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he would use a mono cable for that, but so the 3.5 millimeter cable typically is a TRS, tip ring sleeve. So you'd have two wires, one carrying the left channel, one carrying the right channel, and then you have ground. So if you're just trying to get audio, yes, you can use the headphone output directly into the Atem, but if you're trying to get audio out of your Mac, you should have an HDMI output as well, and that will also carry audio. And I would prefer to use HDMI, which has the audio embedded, over using an unbalanced analog cable like that.
Yeah, early in most of our careers, even those of us who go back a long way, we kind of realize the limitations of unbalanced audio and the problems that it causes, and we've all switched. When you start into professional work, to balance connections, it is important. Also, when you split something with a simple Y, you are going to lower the level of the signal, and so there's a lot of impedance and phase problems. I've had circumstances where simply Ying something out, particularly if the original plug was, as described, a 2-conductor, not 3-conductor, and suddenly you're into phase problems because it's summing. There's just a lot of little biddly things that can be a problem. Alex is going to help you out some more too. Alex?
Yeah, and it looks like Paul's trying to bring in an ICOM 5100 transceiver. Yeah, I don't know if I would try to do that directly. I mean, I think that you're taking two things with potentially. I mean, you're right to think about whether you need some attenuation. You may have two very different impedances coming out of that transceiver than what you're expecting to get into with this system. They're two very, I think, fairly different systems. Yeah, you might have to explain that a little bit more in another question.
Alexander, you had a thought on it?
Okay, so now based on what Paul is saying, now I understand. He's actually trying to get audio from that into the computer here. So first of all, let's talk about, if we're talking about a Mac, that headphone jack is actually a TRRS jack. So there's an extra ring in there, so you can actually send microphone signal with the correct cable. So there are companies that make these little adapters that will split out the TRRS jack, and it will give you one headphone 3.5, and then it will give you another for sending audio in to the computer. Can you do it? Yes, you can buy that adapter for about $30, but it's not the cleanest, best way to get audio. I would much rather have an audio interface over USB connected to this thing and have that go into the computer. Again, when we're dealing with these 3.5 millimeter jacks, they're not ideal. If you keep the cable length short, you can make it work. So you may want to just try it and see what the audio quality is like. Otherwise, some kind of audio interface and getting that into there. Another thing you can do too is get something like the Art CleanBox Pro, which can take that 3.5 millimeter unbalanced output from your ICOM transceiver, take that and convert it to a balanced +4 dBu connection as well. So that's usually when anything is unbalanced, I like to convert it to balanced.
Alex, more thoughts on your side?
Yeah, John Wallace said the output he is referring to is an amplifier out. You will need to step down to line level. He said, don't plug it into the Atem. So like
it will release the white gas of life, perhaps. This is not a good thing with electronics.
So yeah, you need to really think about it. And what I would highly recommend is getting something that is specialized. I'm sure that for this box, there's something that's specialized to take the audio out of that and convert it into regular audio. Trying to short circuit it and get it directly in. Usually there's a box in between that will make my life much easier. And Mickey said, look at products from AV Lifesaver and Combiner from Tony Smiles.
And that actually port, I was shocked when I investigated that, thinking it was just a headphone out. It's actually a very complex point in there. It actually, I think, has Toslink out and a bunch of other stuff in there. So there's all sorts of signals present. Laptops today, all of them, and Macs in particular, are very smart, and they look at the ports when you boot things up, and they go, what is this thing, and how can I use it? And they're very modal, which means that if you have device A plugged in, the computer will configure itself differently than if you have device B plugged in. So I'm going along with everybody else. Figure out how to get audio out of it another way if you can. Alex?
And Eduardo Augustine said, don't try Pro Audio into the Atem, please. He goes, my Atem Extreme died this way. Look, it's always something in between. Yeah.
Yeah, we've always been a little leery. Atems are fabulous devices. Most of us have them. Some of us have more than one. But we all bemoaned the fact that when Blackmagic designed them, they put audio on these 1/8-inch mini plugs.
But it's not just that. One of the things to think about is that always look at the mode in which, the kind of, if you're living in one world, and this is a receiver transmitter world, and you're trying to go to another world, unless it's very clear that something has RCA or XLR and it's very clearly labeled, don't try to mix and match the wires. They may be the same size, but they're not doing the same thing. And you just have to be very, very careful when you get out of a Pro Audio or any kind of audio, and then you're going into something like the transceiver world is a completely different world than the audio world. They both have audio, but they grew up on two different islands for a long time, and they just need different things, so you just have to kind of understand that.
There you go. Next question.
Next one is from John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. What is your favorite for driving directions? Apple Maps, Google, Mapquest, or, like me, let your spouse do it?
That's a political question. We don't handle politics here, let alone family politics. This is very dangerous, but Alex is going to be bold and try to take it on. Dive in.
I have to say that for a long time, I wouldn't use Apple Maps because I just felt like it was a disaster, and I'd go back to Google Maps. And then there was a thing where it was one of those things that you click on every link you click on an iPhone, it goes to Apple Maps. And there was some point where, I'd go to Apple Maps, I'd go to Google Maps, and there was some point where I felt like Google Maps from a visual perspective kind of fell behind, and it felt clunky. And it was not, and it got to a point also where the Apple Maps felt like it was giving me the same accuracy. There was a year or two where it did not. And so I kind of have leaned into Apple Maps for the most part. There's a lot of convenience things there if you're an Apple user. If traffic is hectic, I use Waze. So Waze but I don't use Waze on a regular basis because I hate the interface. I hate how it looks with a passion. But when it's rainy or there's a lot of traffic or there's holiday traffic or whatever, Waze can help you it breaks a lot of rules and tells you where everything is and tells you how to go through the back people's back roads that they don't want you to go in. And,
Yards.
Backyards. Like you can cut through this guy's backyard, and
Right.
if you drive fast enough, you get over this pool. And we only lost a couple cars that way. But there's a cop on the other side. But he can only get 2 or 3 of you.
But
so
his
Waze
name's
lets you
John,
know.
and he's gone out for coffee. So you're saying
Now there is. I heard that Waze is now taking some of the features. They're taking some of the features from Waze and putting them into Google Maps, which is telling you where all the police officers are and telling you where all those things are. So those are the So anyway, yeah. So I would say that 95% of my time now is in Apple Maps and 5% is in Waze. Waze.
So there you go.
Waze, not Waves. Waze.
Yeah. Yes, they're 2 different things. Anyway, all we can do is wish you the best, John. I do know that from the time I started paying attention to driving directions, things have improved on all the services a whole lot. And I think that we're generating a whole group of kids who don't know how to get anywhere unless they have a voice in their head telling them, turn right here. But
I don't know where I am. I've realized that a lot of times I have no sense of where I am anymore because I'm just kind of following because I've learned to not make things up. Like there are ways that I've driven for years that I thought was the fastest way to do it. And then if I follow the actual instructions, there's faster ways to go. Like I've timed it like, oh no, you can't go that way. And then to go to the airport from my house to go to San Francisco International, I've always gone down 19th, but some of the times Apple will tell me to go across the Bay Bridge. Now, when you think about that, if you grew up in San Francisco, you're like, that is just nuts.
Insane.
And I've timed it a couple times and it's right, but not always. So it's like you get on, and the other thing is because a lot of these are dynamic, a lot of them are moving you around, especially for a longer trip based on traffic. And so even if you knew how to get there, oftentimes it can find a better way to get there. But Lois pointed out that the Waze is terrible for local roadways and smaller communities. And it is, again, I don't use it all the time, Lois, but sometimes you just need to get from point A to point B, and you might have to go down A Street and across 10th.
Yeah, I think it's getting more real time and more flexible too. I've had a couple of circumstances. I was driving in Boston area once, and it said take this exit 19 or whatever. And we got there, and it was closed off, and it didn't know it was closed off, and I had to go another 12 miles out of my way because of that. I do think they're more interactive now, and they're getting road information all the way back. And
the real break for me is I was in Rwanda using Google Maps, and it was at night, and I'm driving this Land Cruiser, and I'm on a road though. It's not like I was out in the outback or anything. And so I'm driving up, and I came up, and I was like, wow, I can't see anything, and I drove right up to the edge of a cliff. Like it was just right up, and I just stopped, and it just went down 80 feet, and I was just like, and then I could see the road start, and I guess it had washed away or something, but it looked like it had washed away a long time ago. There was trees growing down there and everything else. I mean, whenever they mapped it, it had been gone for a while, but it was, it was, and I was like, okay, I'm going to use Apple Maps now, and from then on, that was pretty much the turning point for me.
Yeah, the traffic is tough. Francis Fry brought in the comment, Boston traffic is meant to dissuade visitors. Remember those years during the Big Dig when no one could get anywhere?
All I can tell you is I had my cousin's Acura in 1989 inside of a roundabout, and I couldn't get, the Boston drivers wouldn't let me out. So I must have gone around 4 or 5 times. And there's 2 things that I decided after that. Number 1 is I hate roundabouts. And number 2, don't drive in Boston. Yeah. So, and I've never driven in Boston again.
All right. We love you, Boston. You're a fine city.
No, I love going to Boston.
That's right.
But it's all Ubers and the T, it's not, there's no driving.
Next question.
Mariela Shushamira in Wablo is asking, with all the changes in the climate, how do you protect yourself and your products and video making?
Alex.
Well, when we have inclement climate, we're getting a lot of rain right now. One of the things that we, the first thing you do is, I won't show up pretty much without some kind of tent. I don't build outside ever. I just don't build outside. So I need to have at least a tent. To put over top of everything, and the tent does 2 things. One is I oftentimes will get an air conditioner for it, so it's nice and cool. But I try to keep it. It also keeps it dry, keeps my crew much more active when it's a better temperature. And it protects you. You don't know what's going to happen. I think I've told the story in the past. I was at a Vegas event where they kept on making fun of me because I was like, they're like, it's Vegas, and I'm like, I still need a tent, and then they had an unusual rain that was like as if someone had poured a bucket out of I looked at this giant Digico that was literally water was just rolling out of the bottom of it. Because they didn't put a tent over top of it. So I was the only one I think that walked away with all my gear. And so tents are really important. I'm usually pretty particular when someone asks where we're going to set up. I want to know where I'm going to set up. And again, came from kind of horror stories. I want to know where I'm going to be set up. I want to know what the temperature is going to be. I want to know how far things are. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then when you pack things, make sure that everything you pack is watertight. So we use a lot of Pelican cases. Even our other cases are generally watertight. Because you just never know. So for inclement weather, you just got to really think about it and figure out what it's going to take to get it there.
Yeah, that's also a local thing. I spent a lot of my career in Arizona, so sun was an incredibly important thing. I think at one point I owned 11 black umbrellas because no matter what it was, camera, piece of gear, whatever, we never let it get direct sunlight because it's so intense that it ends up really messing up electronics and things like that. So you just have to understand that this is part of the production cycle. Know what affects your gear and know how to protect against it, and you'll be producing long after your competitors who don't know those little tricks have fallen by the wayside. Next question.
Here's Guy Cochran asking, did you know that you can now download Tricaster software and install it on your own PC?
Oh, you get a Tricaster and you get a Tricaster. Alex, did you know that?
Yeah, John was on actually talking about it from Viz a couple weeks ago. And so it's a pretty exciting update. I think that it makes a lot of sense. When Tricaster first came out, you really needed to tune the PC to make sure that it could actually do video, but a lot of PCs are powerful enough to do it now. So I think that it definitely makes sense to move the Tricaster to something that can be installed.
Nice. Next question.
Next one is from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What's the current most bang for the buck small PC for doing shows like office hours, playout, etc.?
Let's go to Alexander Knight for that. Alexander?
There are a bunch out there. I own not this new one, but I have a Melee Quieter 3. This is the newer Quieter 4C, and this one has the newer N100 processor in it with 16 gigs of RAM. The Quieter 3 has half that amount of RAM, and the older N95, which, by the way, you can still buy the Quieter 3. It's cheaper than this one, and it still plays 1080. You can have a lot of 1080p videos for playback on these ones. So, if you want to save some money, get the cheaper Quieter 3. Those are still fine, and they've got no fan in it, so they run, obviously, silent. I do find that they get disturbingly hot, but they are designed to run hot because the whole exterior chassis is basically a giant heatsink. But those work really well for that, and they come bundled with Windows 11 Pro, and they do not have any junk or third-party antivirus software or anything. It's just a clean vanilla Windows 11 installation, which I prefer.
Alex?
Yeah, John Wallace said that the M4 Mac Mini is hard to beat, and I would agree that, I think that it's a little bit more expensive, but I would say the bang for your buck is there. It is a beast. Like I have one right now. I have the base unit here that I'm testing for some work that we're doing because we might have to buy a couple hundred of them. And I'm just kind of amazed. The little box does so much. So especially when it comes to AV, I think a lot of the smaller ones, if you're looking for a PC, the B-Links, all those things are fine. But if you're really looking for AV, I think that I would look pretty hard at that M4.
And David Brady in the chat says the B-Link GTI Ultra EX, and he's got a list there to a bundle price on it if you're interested in going in that direction. By the way, don't forget that you can always pop your questions in using the QR code. Let me see if I can bring it up here in the corner of the screen. That is kind of the quickest way to get your questions into things. If you follow that link or just type in askofficehours.global, you can put yourself in the queue. Those questions, if at the end of the show, if we don't get to them, they'll be persistent over the course of the next show. So it's a way to kind of get your thoughts in there if you're a regular viewer. If not, you can go back to the other Mukana process that I mentioned earlier. But anyway, next question.
Here is one from the QR code. Gene J. Anthony in Skokie, Illinois. What are your views on setting up and using the audio tools in vMix? How about the best VSTS or other plugins for this and how you use them?
Alexander, you want to come back in on this?
I'm very wary of using VST. I own a lot of plugins, but I'm always very wary of using them in other applications that are not a typical digital audio workstation. And the reason for that is because I find sometimes they destabilize that application, not specific to vMix, but for example, like in DaVinci Resolve, I find there are a lot of VST plugins that just don't seem to like DaVinci Resolve, but they're very, very stable in, say, Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton. So I would be very careful. If you are going to use VSTs, test it thoroughly, bang on it, make sure it is as stable as it can possibly be, because you can introduce a lot of problems if you're using other tools that are not the native audio processing that is in that application.
Let's go to our next question.
Gabriela Eshsesal Mistira in Sault Ste. Marie. Apple announced an urgent 0-day update yesterday. What's this all about? Why so urgent for this update? And why are all the last updates dated 19th and not 20th?
Alex?
I haven't gotten this memo, so I don't see any urgent updates on mine. So if you're seeing them, let us know what operating system you're on, but I haven't seen any.
Neither have I, and I would just say, whenever I run across some sort of urgent, you must do this to your computer thing, I always go, well, let me just dive out of whatever links I'm in and go right to Apple and do a search and see if there's a security update for today, because that is one threat vector that people use. Oh, urgent, you must install this on your PC right now, and it turns out it's from...
So I guess John Wallace posted, I don't know why it hasn't come to us, but it says this is the what he's talking about is JavaScript core processing malicious crafted web content may lead to arbitrary code execution. That's not good. Apple is aware of this report that this issue may have been actively exploited on Intel-based Mac systems. And then WebKit processing maliciously crafted web content may lead to cross-site scripting attack. Apple is aware of the report and the issue may have been actively exploited. And also, I don't know if you guys saw that there's a video on YouTube about honey. Have you guys seen all the honey drama? Have you seen what a lot of social media folks talked about getting the honey plugin? I don't usually get plugins, so I'm kind of impervious to those kinds of ads. But I mean, it really has to be good for me to put a plugin in my Chrome. I need to be desperate, before I'm going to do that. I have like 4, and so, but what it's supposed to do is find you coupons, and it turns out, and it's like, I mean, it's on all the social networks. I mean, I guess they must have advertised across, Mr. Beast and Marquez Brownlee and everything else. Someone did the research on it and realized that when you go to buy something and it looks for the coupon, it swaps who's the benefactor it automatically swaps who's the benefactor of the affiliate
so
code.
So it's free money mining software for the developer. That's all.
Well, and this is owned by I can't remember anyway, it's PayPal. It's owned by PayPal. But it is, well, it's not, and John Wallace said if the product is free, you're the product. It's actually worse if it's taking all the money from all the creators who are doing the affiliate codes, because it basically it is swapping theirs out for its own. What's interesting is it's undermining the people who they bought ads from. It's actually damaging their revenue forever, and all the other and everyone else as well. I mean, I can't believe that people have decided that that's okay. And I guess they try to take it to the, I don't know. It's a pretty
royalty hijacking. That sounds terrible.
You should watch. Just do that. If you do a search, I mean, it got like 1 million views or 2 million views in like 3 days or something like that. If you do a search on YouTube for Honey affiliate, you'll see the video. It's good. It's good. It's well-made video.
So there you go. Always stuff to be aware of, and we hope. So thank you for your question on this. We don't know always exactly what the latest thing is, but that's what the community is good for. And thank you, John Wallace, for giving us more information about what's going on there. There's a lot of scofflaws, just a ton of them out there trying to take advantage of everybody else. And the best we can do to protect you and protect each other, that's part of why communities exist. Let's go to the next question.
From the QR code, Lyle Kwiatkowski in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm looking into purchasing an NAS Storage Solution for an at-home setup. Does the panel have any suggestions for systems, plus the brand size of drives I should mount?
Alex, what are you thinking?
So the brand is the most popular brand for NAS. NAS is a network attached solutions. Is Synology. I mean, that's the one we see the most. As far as how big it needs to be, that depends on what you're doing. As big as you can afford. I would think about 30 plus terabytes. I mean, is kind of where I'd start. I don't think it's worth going through a NAS. Because you can also have direct attached storage, which is just a big. So there's a bunch of different things. Like, what are you doing? How many computers need to connect to it? What is the throughput required? Are you trying to edit video off of it? Are you just storing stuff on it? Those are the kind of things you want to think about.
Alexander Knight, you had a thought?
Yeah, Synology is the most popular one. I'm currently looking for a NAS solution myself, and I'm kind of trying to figure out whether or not I want a Synology pre-configured box or I might be building my own, which is another one. There's also someone turned me on to, I think it's called True NAS, which is a very popular application for turning your computer into a NAS effectively. As far as drives are concerned, I always look at the published data that backblaze.com puts out, because they are a cloud service provider, and they do this incredible report where they show you all the drives in their data centers and the failure rates of these drives, some better than others. Currently, I'm actually looking at the Seagate Ironwolf Enterprise class, like ones that are designed for longevity. So those ones seem to also get very good reviews.
And I'm taking a little tremble here because when I saw your name, Lyle Kwiatkowski, it reminded me that there was a gentleman named Kwiatkowski who had a lot to do with my education as a kid. There was a show on Phoenix called Wallace and Ladmo, and Ladmo was a gentleman named Vladimir Kwiatkowski, who had the two of them put on a children's show for probably 30 years, and I think they raised and set the sense of humors for an entire generation of Phoenix kids. So if you have any link up there, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of your entire family tree for Wallace and Ladmo's show. Look it up. It was an incredible thing to have in a local thing. Alex, you wanted to say something?
Let's see. Guy and Mickey said 8 bay is the minimum to go. So think about 8 bays. And there was Mickey also said the same. Just remember, whatever you need, double it. Like whatever you think you need. It is really difficult to upgrade NASs. It's not impossible, but you want to think about, how many, what you're going to do over the next couple of years when you build it. So I would say you want whatever you have now that you're going to put on the NAS should be 10% of what the NAS is set up for. You should not be more than 10%. No, whatever you think you need, double it. But whatever you have right now should be 10% of whatever you put on that NAS, so that you have plenty of places to grow, so that you don't have to think about this for potentially a couple of years. But yeah.
Let's go to our next question.
Next question's from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. What iPad and iPad mini stands do panelists use? I want to set up both with the iPad used as the third monitor on a Mac Mini. The iPad Mini won't be connected to the Mac, using the Mini to capture notes with an external keyboard.
Harshi Trivedi, start us off here.
For iPad stands, I like the Tollsoft hover bar. I'm holding it up right now. It has a base, and with the new Gen 2, the bottom base actually clips out, so you could take this part out like this. And then if you needed to put a clamp, the clamp also has a clip that attaches to the bottom. So depending where you need to hover the monitor, or that's iPad mini or iPad on top of your other screens, works really well. About $80, I think, 12 South, I found on Amazon.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, so the one that I have, and I have a lot of them, is this is the, I guess it's the Brokun. This one here. Now, what the nice thing about it here, if you look at it, is it folds up, so you can put your laptop or iPad, and I guess you have an iPad, iPad and iPad Mini, both will fit there. It folds up into almost nothing. I don't know if I'm trying to find a picture, but that all folds up into kind of a flat. There you go. You can see it kind of flat, so I can put it in cases. And it's not very expensive. And you can see that I purchased it 3 times. That's just the black one. I have more of the silver ones, but that's kind of like what I have. That's what I use for all my stands. And then I can kind of move them. And what's nice is you can kind of move it up and move it around and get it just to where you want it. And it just kind of sits down on things. So that's what I use a lot of.
And those of you who wish to support us, please, we'd appreciate it greatly. It does take some money to run office hours, and we are a 501c3, so we are a legit not-for-profit organization, which means that any donations you make, check with your CPA, will be almost surely tax deductible and the rest of that. But regardless, if you want to keep us going and help us do office hours and continue to do it as we have every day answering your questions, you can go to officehours.com/donate and toss in something, and we would greatly appreciate it. Let's go on to our next question.
From Callum McCorkle in Bournemouth, Leeds, with all of the incredible advancements announced in the Apple presser, could Apple have finally been able to take advantage of some of the ages-old technologies using scalar energy? Would it have advanced the cameras even more?
Alex Lindsay, what do you think?
Apple tends to stay. People think of Apple as breaking new ground, but they don't really break a lot of new ground. They usually are drafting behind other people. They kind of look at what's working and not working, and then they show how to do it like an adult. It's like there's a whole bunch of move fast, break things. Everyone's trying to figure things out, and Apple kind of just sits back and just goes, "Let's just watch all of this for a second." And it's like one of those running backs that kind of comes up to the line and just kind of, let's just see how the line's going here for a minute. And it looks like they're not going anywhere, and then suddenly they go through the hole. And I think that's what I think that's what Apple's doing right now. Is there? I don't think that. I think scalar energy is probably a couple decades away. If it's still a pretty out there technology, and I think Apple will probably wait until until a whole bunch of people fail at it, and then as soon as someone succeeds, but it kind of only partially works, then Apple will figure out how to do something with it. But we're probably a couple decades away at least.
Next question.
Another one from the QR code, Kent in Madison, Ohio. If I'm trying to push out a lot of segment videos from a political live stream, do I both Opus Clips and the Pro version on CapCut, or can I do everything in CapCut Pro, as they have AI clipping?
Alex, what's been your experience?
So there's a bunch of things that you can use for this. So the question when it comes to clipping, so actually 090 does a bunch does a lot of this. There's a company called Use It, which is I think the one we use. It's like YUZZITT or something like that, out of France. And those are the ones that we use for it. Now that's online, so that means you can have a team all over the place that can do clips. So we do clips for big events. There's like some events on Christmas Day that probably keep folks busy, so if you're looking for little clips for social and you're trying to do them in real time, that's an online solution for that. The other way you can do it is, I know a lot of folks are starting to figure out how to use the Resolve stuff. So you can take your literally your Apple TV, figure out a way to get it in to Resolve, and then you have all the real time I don't want to say this in front of Robert Greene because he'll make fun of me, but the semi EVS solution. It's the kind of like the very small EVS solution of that you can start. That's starting to get better and better and better, and starting to use HyperDecks and so on and so forth. I will say that oftentimes, Robert said EVS-ish is okay. There we go. I will say that the scary thing, what should scare EVS, is that Blackmagic has this tendency to do something, and then when they first go into something, everyone goes, oh, that's silly. You know, like what they're doing is silly and it doesn't really make sense. And then it starts to kind of, they start to coalesce, you know, and suddenly they've done something for 1/10 the cost, you know? So anyway, but I know some folks that are working in politics right now that are starting to test using Resolve as a live clipping solution. When it comes to doing AI clipping, we're about to do, you're going to start to see a bunch of shorts from us, and we're testing Opus. So Opus was on. They're giving us a little bit of room to use some of their software. And so we're going to be testing, putting out a lot of clips. We won't go crazy, but my goal is probably 3 to 5 clips a day of the last hour, you know, to show what that looks like. So we have a team kind of building for that. My experiments with Opus have been very successful. So it's not that a human couldn't do it better than Opus, but Opus can, in 15 minutes, look at 2 hours of footage and give me 40 of the best clips. And I'd be hard-pressed to find better clips. Now, you oftentimes go in and adjust them a little bit. You know, take this out, add this. There's a little, you know, extend this a little bit. So it's not, I haven't been usually, but, and again, when you're trying to do something fast turn, sometimes perfect is the enemy of let's get it out. so I think that Opus Clips has been the one that I've been the most positive about. CapCut is owned by TikTok or ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok. I do watch TikTok. I don't put CapCut on my machine. So that's part of it is CapCut asks for all the access to all the images in my photo library and stuff like that. And handing ByteDance all of that is not something that I'm particularly excited about. Like, as soon as it did that, I was like, no, I'm going to leave now. I will admit that maybe I'm superstitious, but I'm a little less excited about CapCut being on my machine, though I do watch TikTok on my phone.
Next question.
Next one is from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. The Insta360 Link has terrific PTZ capability, which my Sony ZV-E10ii lacks, which is on a stand. How do I make it as agile and controllable as the Insta via an app?
Alexander Knight.
I don't see how you can, because the Sony camera is not designed to be a PTZ. So you can remotely control it. Obviously, there is app control for the Sony cameras, but to get PTZ functionality, you'd be looking at buying a third-party gimbal system, probably something that has a remote control. And yes, there are all sorts of companies that make things like that. You can find even cheap ones on Amazon that I'm sure are not particularly fantastic. I've looked into this too for some cameras, and they operate on the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum for wireless control. So you would never use anything serious, like that, or anything like that in a serious environment for production use. But yeah, you can buy these moving head options for these types of DSLR cameras and control them with a remote.
Next. Oh, I'm sorry. Cindy Drozda wanted to get in on this. Cindy?
Like Alexander said, an app alone probably won't do it, but I have some cameras on pan tilt hardware that is controllable by a remote. So in a sense, I have PTZ. Sony's are great because they have the ability to use a wireless or wired remote that will do zoom and focus, and put one of those wireless controlled pan tilts and the remote for zoom and focus, and you have a PTZ camera that zooms as well, or that focuses as well.
Next question.
Next one is from Paolo Sa in New York. Can you advise on easy travel size solo setup for small stage audio video recording of stage and audience? The stage may be as small and dark as a basement comedy club, and separate audio may help for YouTube upload.
Harshid, what do you think?
So when we were talking about audio, you could get wireless packs. So we have Ceramonic Ultra, you have the Sennheiser Profile, DJI just got their product out there. Don't remember the model name per se. And then the GoPros from Rode. Those are all at least to capture the audio. So if you lose anything, if you wanted to add an interface, you could go with a 4 input such as the SSL2 Plus or a SSL12 to just get some mics and stuff closer to stage. As far as video goes, I would say it's easy enough to either take the Insta360 as a camera output, or using your iPhone for a webcam. You could capture, maybe using a couple different phones if you have that to your disposal. You could still capture really good quality. So depending on the missing of audio and stuff, you'll have backup if you're using like a wireless pack on you. So if you're saying you want to upload it to YouTube, or you might have better audio quality that you're looking for. So for when it comes to editing or post work, you might have better time to have both audio signals catch from a microphone and the wireless microphones as well. And then, like I said, for video, it just depends.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, from the audio perspective, I mean, I'm testing right now this Mix Pre 10. So the Mix Pre's are good. Mickey suggests the higher version of it, which I also would suggest if you can afford it. The Sound Devices 888 or the Scorpio, which are kind of the most amazing field mixers ever made. And then also, then you can take the house mix and possibly ISOs. One of the advantages of the 8 series is that you can get Dante into it. So, you can, what I do with my Scorpio, I mean, I manage comms and ISOs and returns and all. I mean, it's a full on mixer inside of a little box, but it is $12,000. And these are limited, but it depends on what you're trying to record. So if you're just doing basic recording of those things, and Mickey also suggests some 416s, something like this, or the Mix Pre, 3 or 6 are also things to look at. So those are some things to kind of consider. If you can afford it, then definitely look at the 8 series or above, and then Scorpio. But if you can't, I've been pretty happy with these Mix Pre's. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just going to comment that the audio part and the video part are their unique things. Both of them are difficult to do well in that kind of constantly traveling and in small clubs and things like that. Particularly video in small clubs, lighting is usually terrible, and so trying to figure out how you're going to get something that's capable of doing an audience shot in a small dark nightclub is a very big challenge. Normally they won't let you bring in any additional lighting and things like that. That's the kind of thing we would do if we were actually doing a concert in there, and everybody have to understand that the lighting for the video is important enough to annoy the audience a little bit with some brighter lighting, but it can be very difficult. And just know that you're kind of grabbing a lot to chew on there. I would do double system, actually. And the reason I say that is because if it's a single device doing both audio and video and it fails, everything fails, and you have no copy of the show at all. If they're performing and the audio is going to be carrying most of the information to the audience, so I'd probably do just even a simple Zoom H4 kind of device that has a long running time. It's pretty bulletproof, and there are plenty of other devices in the same class to at least capture sound for sure if you get a poor video signal out and you can't really use it because it's just too dark in there and you got a lot of noise and things like that. So that's what I think about doing. Next question.
Next one's from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. What Apple shortcuts automations are similar? Zapier, Move, text expansion, do you use daily to create an efficient digital workflow? Alexander
Knight's going to help you out. Alexander?
Yeah, back in the day, I used to use a was it called Text Expander? That was the popular one. I think they're still around. That one, I would build up a lot of keyboard shortcuts that would do very complex functions. And it supported AppleScript. And then I stopped using it, and it was mainly because when I would go to work at certain companies that had Mac computers where I couldn't install software, it was very frustrating when I was used to like the muscle memory of these keyboard shortcuts that would drastically improve my workflow, but then when I would get to work and then I had none of those shortcuts. So now I just use the Apple text expansion functionality that's built into Mac OS, although I'm thinking about now maybe moving back to I used to use an app called Alfred, and it's still around actually. And I'm just looking at the new version, which is Alfred 5, which has a lot of incredible, powerful features. And text expansion is one of them, but you can do a lot more. I can't even get into it because it does so much here. But they have this new, this kind of nodal editor, which is a new thing, which it looks really cool. So I'm going to kind of want to play around with that. So if that's what you're kind of looking at, I would suggest maybe looking at Alfred if you're a Mac OS user.
Alex Lindsay, up top.
Yeah, I think that I know Zoom just added a bunch of more features as they, that are tying into shortcuts. So I think that that's something I kind of want to experiment with of what I can use there. I do have the same issues that Alexander has in the sense that I have a tendency to move to a lot of machines, and I have a tendency not to add a lot of specialty things to it. One of the things that I thought was genius, that I believe is all shortcuts, that Jason Snell does for his podcasts. We were talking about it on a Mac break. He has a bunch of, and I think that they're all shortcuts. I don't think it's anything more than that. But what he does is he has buttons on his Stream Deck, and while he's in his podcast, when he hits edit points, like someone coughs or something, he has like a button for cough. He has a button for edit this out. He has a button for these different things. And he just pushes those buttons during the show, just to give notes. They generate markers on Final Cut. So when he opens it up, he just sees in Final Cut all the edits he wanted to make, all the key edits that he wanted to make, without having to like listen through it again and listen for those. They're all kept there, and I thought that was a pretty genius thing to do.
Absolutely. Don't forget, there are other shows other than Office Hours that we are involved in right now. Office Hours regular every day is something we hope you continue to watch consistently. But don't forget that if you're in a different time zone, Extra Hours happens on Monday nights, U.S., and that means that it's at different times around the world. So a lot of our people in different time zones, our Australian friends and things like that, don't have to get up in the middle of the night to get an Office Hours-like experience. So pay attention to Extra Hours. Conversations with Tony Mobley still happens on Wednesdays. And The Rundown with David Paskin is our newest presentation. That happens on Thursday evenings. So keep your eyes on Office Hours. We will have more of these things coming up in the future. Next question.
Ignacio in Madrid, Spain comes to us from the QR code. How do you implement the HDR workflow from the camera point of view? I would love to know details about that.
Alex?
So it depends on what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to do live or whether you're trying to do for post. For post, it's easy. Capture a log. So you don't want to actually capture an HDR unless you have to. And what I mean by that is that there are so many versions of HDR. So you have HLG. You have the PQ curve, and then on top of the PQ curve, they may pack metadata for the entire file, and that's HDR10, or they can pack it per frame, which is HDR10 plus, or they can give you all the control you need, which is Dolby Vision. So those are the different versions of those things. But there's two reliant curves. That HLG, which is very close to SDR, doesn't have as much data in the highlights. PQ is going to have more in the highlights, the PQ curve, but it's if you get it wrong, it's really off, from that perspective. But in general, what you're looking for is just to capture a log. So what's important is if you're capturing, it depends on what camera you have. You want to capture a log, and then you want to capture as much data with that log as possible. So if you capture a log in 8-bit, you're in trouble, because that's going to mean that you're not going to have enough steps to stretch that back out, because the log is going to look very washed out. So you're going to capture that log, and typically if you're capturing camera raw, so it's Blackmagic raw, or what all these cameras have some version of, or not all of them, but if it doesn't, it's probably not the camera to shoot HDR with. But you're capturing a log at least 10-bit, if not 12-bit, or a raw camera file format, and then you're going to take that into Resolve, and in Resolve you're going to first you need to do you're going to need to convert that. So you're going to convert it from you're going to do a color space adjustment where you're going to go, I'm coming from this camera's log or raw, and I'm going to send it to Rec 709, let's say, or if you're going to HDR, to an HDR, and then you're going to go there. But that's going to give you the room that you need. There's obviously a whole hour for us to talk about how to make all those conversions, and we'd probably try to bring Charles Klein in to talk about it a little bit. But those are the basics of it. But to get into doing HDR, you just start capturing in log, and you can very quickly go from log to 709 if that's all you want to do. Some people will capture log, and then some cameras will let you do proxies that are in whatever color space that you're publishing in. So you can capture log, and then I think the Sonys will capture a proxy that is in H.264 or whatever that has a burned in LUT, and that's going to let you very quickly use that if you had to. There was the time when these cameras started with log. It was kind of funny. There was that everyone. Suddenly, everything on YouTube was log because it had this look because no one knew what they were doing.
We are at the top of the hour. I'm a little conflicted. I really
let's ask the last one. Let's ask the last one. I think the last one.
Yeah, let's do because I wanted to hear your take on this. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cindy. Do our last question.
Aaron Cody in. Oh, that's not the one I thought. Okay, we'll ask this one.
No, that is.
No. That's
it's the Aaron Cody question.
Aaron Cody.
Oh, yeah?
From St. Louis. Let me just do it here.
All right.
Thoughts?
Aaron Cody in St. Louis, Missouri asked for thoughts on Beast games so far.
So many of you know Mr. Beast is kind of the king of all online media, has done this live show. Alex, have you watched, and what do you think?
I watched the first episode, and all I got to say is wow. Like it was just like my brain like melted down like watching it. Like I haven't watched the second one yet, not because I wasn't impressed, but just like I don't know if I can handle the stress. Like I was just it was very stressful to watch. It was the fastest 40 minutes that I have seen in a very long time. I couldn't believe that it had just been 40 minutes that we had watched that. There are, I think it's a little over 1,100 cameras. So they had a GoPro for every person, and then they had like 40 some Arri cameras floating around, and then they had extra GoPros that were floating around everywhere. So there's a lot of GoPros. And then they had, and it's, if you like Mr. Beast, it's very Mr. Beast. It's Mr. Beast with all the money. Like, I mean, he's done well, but he now has like Hollywood money to do something. It was very intense to watch. He's really good at just creating impossible situations for everybody. And so these things are just like, a lot of it it's fair but not fair. Like it's like, he's forcing people to make decisions that affect everybody else. And so that's what creates, it's not just how good are you personally. He's making people make moral decisions about what they do. Like he was, and that is a very complicated thing to do. And it was, it definitely is not like any other game show you've ever seen. And again, though, the problem is my kids and I were like, oh, the second one, we were like, we feel like we have to be in the right mood. Like when you watch something like, Jeopardy or something like that, that's to relax. Like you're just there to kind of like watch it, and there's a pattern, and you're just gonna, it's there. The Mr. Beast is there to turn all the gauges all the way up, and it was a pretty intense experience. I highly recommend it. I agree with Mickey. The editing is rough because it's the way the cameras are set up and the way that they're trying to give you the energy that's there and everything else. It doesn't feel like any other edit. I wouldn't say it's bad or good. I would just say that it's the way Mr. Beast cut shows. And I think that they have access. They're dealing with so many cameras, and they're trying to give you this kind of visceral experience. And I think in that sense, there's a lot of things that work about that. But there's some, like, again, so much money went into it. He was able to build a set that is just absurd. Like the set is absurd. And it was pretty intense. So anyway, Edward Augustine said Squid Game in real life. It's close, not quite, but it's close. Yeah, it's intense. So I would, as a media creator, you should watch it. You should watch episode 1. I give it a stamp of you should see it, and then we can all have an opinion about it. But it is a different kind of media, and it's intense. And I think I have to build up to being able to watch the second one. So.
My thought when I first saw pieces of it was everybody slows down and sees the car crash. You can't not look at it, and I think they're taking that and folding it into entertainment.
Did you watch it? Did you watch it?
I've seen pieces. I've seen clips that my friends.
It's impossible decisions, and and you can understand. Here's what I find so fascinating is you can understand the thought process going both directions, and it forces you, if you really think about it. I'm not going to get into what he makes people do, but it is people are making impossible decisions, and you can see why someone would make a decision that basically kind of shorts everybody else, in their group, because you can understand why they might do that, and then you have to think about what would I do in that position, and I know that I wouldn't make any money because I would be the one that never gives up because it's my personality. So I would just be like, no, I'm not going to do it, and I would just take it, like I was, I think because a lot of people get eliminated because they're just hard headed. Anyway, so it's a really, anyway, I find it to be a fascinating social experiment as well, but it does make people it made us uncomfortable.
Yeah, so. I think it makes a lot of that. And looking at Mr. Beast's work, there's always been that element of I don't feel good about this, but I can't not look at it. One bad move and you lose, and you keep going for more, and you keep going for more, and he keeps talking into going for more, and yet the disaster is right around the corner, so you're always on that edge. Well, anyway, we're taking too long. Thank you so much for watching us today. We will be back tomorrow. As always, we have some thank yous to make, and we do these every day because they are critically important to all of our producers, to everybody who put in any kind of question, voted on those questions, or just participated in the show as a producer. Thank you so much for the time and effort you spend posing these questions that our expert panels are able to come up with answers for, and to our panels, always, all the panels that have been here for more than 1,700 daily shows without a break. Everybody who's contributed their knowledge, their time, and their effort, thank you all so much. And to our amazing back-end crew, the people who quietly sit there at computers all over the planet, gathering and adding their talents to what we do to try to help everything get to everyone all around the world. Thank you very much as well. We hope we are satisfying itches for you, giving you more knowledge and helping you solve problems in your real life. That's really our purpose here. So thank you for doing that. I mentioned the other shows that come up, so we'll see you back here tomorrow again and through the holiday season. I think we're going to do a show every single day as we always have. So if you want to drop by on one of those Christmas Eve or Christmas morning shows or something like that, and if you're wondering what's going to happen on Christmas morning, we're going to be here. That's right. Yeah, so we will get questions. Yeah, maybe we'll have an eggnog recipe or something like that. Alex, who knows? Maybe, things to put in your coffee on Christmas morning. Irish coffee, peppermint stir sticks. I've always been a big fan. So, all right. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Irish coffee has all the four major food groups. It's got. I remember my first time at the Buena Vista in San Francisco watching them make assembly line Irish coffees, and it's a wonderful thing. Start with the sugar cubes. All right, I'm going to wander off. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Guess so. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. See y'all in the afterwards.